love coffee and I like tea, but I live for those moments shared between a cup. There's a beautiful quote by Norwegian ethnologist Thor Heyerdahl that says, "Progress is man's ability to complicate simplicity." I'm not here to complicate coffee or tea because there is beauty in its simplicity. However, so many of us in today's society take these simple acts for granted. And so many of us are looking for real, genuine moments of connection. I think that coffee and tea are ways to connect with our own self, to connect with others. They're ways to connect to our heritage, to our ancestors. And I'd like to think that some form of progress comes from the simple act of sharing a coffee or tea with someone. My coffee journey before this had really been confined to cafes. But in order to understand how coffee played a role as this cultural phenomenon, I wanted to talk to the people at the source of it all. I wanted to understand coffee better as a crop, its role in the environment, and I wanted to see how coffee shaped a community.
Coffee is more than just coffee. Coffee is part of a culture. Coffee is part of hopes, family and community goals. Coffee in Costa Rica is also part of our economic democracy, because coffee provided economic opportunity for thousands and thousands of small farmers in Costa Rica for many years. And coffee is today a good opportunity to do education about sustainability. Mm-hmm. And coffee is a great drink.
Exactly.
Coffee provided the economy for all of my family. So today, my father, he's still alive. My mom already died. But working in a coffee field takes me very positive memories of my childhood, working with my brothers and sisters in the same farm, working with my parents. Coffee is also a kind of crop and activity that provides opportunities for small-scale farmers around the world. Mm. So I like those kind of crops. Coffee, in the way we do coffee here in Costa Rica, is not a monocrop. If you go around most of the small coffee farmers, and we are more than 50,000 in Costa Rica, you will see that we integrate coffee with bananas, with plantain, with oranges, with avocados, with some chickens, with goats. So coffee is a kind of crop that, in the way we do, is integrated with different activities in the farm. And I like this because I grew up in the tropical rainforest. And what is natural to this forest is biodiversity. So I like looking at our crops integrated with the rest of the environment.
Las épocas difíciles son la variación del clima y algunas enfermedades que se dan en el cultivo del café, como la roya y el colgallo principalmente, y en el último año la broca del café.
When we talk about conservation and sustainability, most of what you see today in Monteverde, which is positive for the community, positive for the environment, is because of the work of the local community. So a way to think about as a community is even when protecting the environment, it's not only protecting what is inside the borders of the farm. Our farm is environmentally connected with other farms. So, for example, day after tomorrow, we will be planting trees, native trees, in a different farm. And we are not charging the owner of this farm for doing this project because we understand that the forest in their farm and the forest in our farm is connected. And we need to strengthen the connections between different forests.
This is where it becomes very important that what we produce or the production we have be as careful with the environment as possible. And in recent years, more and more interest in not only producing a good quality coffee, but also protecting the environment as the coffee is produced. Right. And in that aspect, our farm, Barsan Farm, with Café Monteverde and with Life program, we have put very special attention to that. And I would say that's one of the things that distinguishes Café Monteverde is in having a system that looks for sustainability in the long term.
A ver, esta pequeñita.
¿Quién va contando?
Most of visitors, most of the students, they connect sustainability with preserving the environment, preserving the forest, preserving the great biodiversity we have here in the cloud forest, protecting the water, reducing our use of pesticides. But in order to be sustainable as a farmer, as a community, as a country, we also have to address social and economic issues. And so sustainability is also about social responsibility, which means that we provide, as possible, the best wages for the workers. We provide them training support. We provide them a house where to stay, because in Costa Rica, the reality is that many coffee pickers are coming from Nicaragua. Mm-hmm. They are migrants, so they need a place where to live. We provide them in case they want to land, if they want to grow some food while staying in Costa Rica, because they stay here 3 to 4 months. So they still have the chance to grow some beans, for example, for themselves. So that is part of our social responsibility. We are also part of a community. It's not that we are successful in terms of the economy of our company, our family, but we have to share what we have with the local community, because at the end, the future of our children and the future of our community is about working together, working as a community. So today we understand that it's not only about protecting the forest in your farm, but we have global challenges for this planet. We have to do the best in what we have some control, our farm, our community. But today we have to ask all those connected in the coffee chain, from the bean to the cup, to be aware about the great responsibility we have today to save a life for the future generations. It is not fair to just enjoy life yourself as individual if you understand that the community, the country, the planet is asking for humans to recuperate the environment. So I would like people, when buying coffee, for example, to check if that coffee supports the environment, if that coffee is really supporting life in this planet. So the taste of the coffee is more than just about quality. It's about the environmental and social responsibility that this coffee is providing.
The prominence of coffee in today's society is apparent everywhere. But in my experience, I could think of no place better in the world that has so much emphasis on coffee and coffee culture than Italy. I mean, Italians are espresso. Buongiorno, come stai? Vorrei un caffè espresso, per favore?
€1, grazie.
Ok,
The first thing you offer someone is coffee. In Italy, you wake up, have a coffee. Then you go downstairs an hour later, have another coffee. Then you go meet up for a friend, have another espresso. Remember, espresso pretty much. Then you go have lunch, then a coffee. Then an hour later, another one. And like we were talking with the owner inside, 10 to 15 coffees a day he drinks. When I was 18, I did a study abroad program in Urbino, which is a little small Renaissance town in the middle of the mountains. And I fell in love with it so much that I decided I wanted to move back at any cost, no matter what I had to do, any kind of work. And I did one more semester in Florida, and then I came back when I was 19. I ended up doing a year in Bologna, a year in Paris, a year in Amsterdam, 4 years in Rome, 5 years in Russia, and I've been back around 5 years in Rome now. And it's the passion of the city that I have for history and for the architecture. It's just something that doesn't go away. It stays with you. It's a very interesting story, and most people don't know that coffee almost didn't make it in Italy. In the 16th century, Venice was a huge trader with the Arab world. And so what happened is, from Egypt, they got these coffee beans, and they started brewing coffee, and it became something very popular in Venice. They realized this drink was diabolical. Why was it? Something mysterious inside was making everyone so hyper and concentrated. So I thought, not very Christian, not good. So finally the Pope at the time, Clement VIII, at the end of the 16th century, said, let me check this out. So he went and tasted it, and he decided it's okay. And the second he gave his okay, it exploded all across Europe. The whole idea of actual coffee. So coffee houses sprung up, not only in Italy, but across, obviously because of Christianity, across the entire European continent.
After sharing a coffee with Brandon from the Roman Guy, I had a better knowledge of the history of coffee houses in Italy. Once he mentioned Venice being the first city in Italy to truly embrace coffee by providing a coffee house to enjoy the drink, it wasn't enough to simply hear about the history of coffee culture in Venice. I had to see it for myself. Which led me to the oldest cafe in Europe, built in 1720, to see history, tradition, and coffee culture upheld and celebrated.
Allora, il caffè Florian è uno dei più antichi caffè del mondo. Venire qua significa fare un viaggio nella storia, è come entrare in un museo. La tradizione in questo senso del caffè Florian è antichissima. Quando Floriano Francesconi lo apre nel 1720 è proprio la personalità di questo grande caffettiere che fa sì che questo diventi il caffè più frequentato, e questa tradizione è rimasta perché assolutamente noi abbiamo motivo di pensare che questo sia il luogo dove l'accoglienza è totale, c'è un rapporto dialettico, visti i tempi, assolutamente importante con la gente che lo frequenta. E la cosa più importante è che qui puoi recuperare il tempo, puoi stare in relax totale, e questa è la cosa più bella, visto che al giorno d'oggi si vive freneticamente. Un po' difficile da tradurre, ma... Il caffè Florian è il salotto buono di Venezia e Venezia è sempre stata una città accogliente. Noi da sempre una delle cose che ci contraddistinguono è il senso dell'ospitalità. A volte entrano dei giovani che non hanno i soldi per bere un caffè al Caffè Florian, entrano, guardano, girano e noi li lasciamo fare, perché il Florian non è solo patrimonio nostro, ma è patrimonio dell'umanità, come questa città. Effettivamente è così. Io dico a tutti che oggi per parlare si usa Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Per secoli questo è stato Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, perché era il vero modo di relazionarsi con la gente, e a Venezia non ci sono le automobili, quindi le relazioni umane sono molto più facili. Allora si dice: vieni a bere un caffè, andiamo, e qua quotidianamente ci sono rapporti tra persone sociali, anche storie d'amore, perché se tu fai così, ascolti, Casanova sta girando nell'aria e ci parla nell'orecchio e ci dice: vai al Florian, perché là l'amore, nasce l'amore. Molte storie d'amore sono nate qui al Florian. Dicono che baciarsi al Florian porti bene, e io ho molti episodi che possono confermare la mia teoria.
In the morning when I wake up, the first things I have to drink is coffee. Think about the coffee is all over the world. So people can have at the same time millions of coffee, in their hands. So the connection is that so many people is drinking coffee at the same time. And a different way, of course, because in Italy mostly it's espresso with a coffee machine, but in Turkey they have Turkey coffee, America they have their kind of coffee, which is the Americans. But the connection to me is that one, to have at the same time people drinking coffee.
Prima tazza di caffè.
La ricordo perfettamente, perché avevo 9 anni e io andavo a casa, sentivo il profumo del caffè. Mia nonna non voleva darmi il caffè, mi dava l'orzo e diceva: perché il caffè fa male ai bambini. Allora, arrivato a 9 anni è stata una sorta di iniziazione all'adolescenza. Quindi il caffè è stato il tramite per diventare grandi, adulti. Nel momento in cui me l'hanno dato, io ho detto: sono diventato un uomo. 2 tazze unite mi fanno pensare che il caffè è sempre uno strumento per stare assieme, di convivialità, di amore verso la vita e soprattutto di un momento di una parentesi di relax di 2 persone che finalmente non si parlano attraverso uno strumento tecnico, attraverso un telefono, ma si parlano davanti.
While coffee has been around for thousands of years, innovation in the coffee industry is constant, and we can see this in the increase and rise of new cafes, coffee shops in large cities and in smaller towns. Communities have a demand, really, for a place to come together and a safe space to get their coffee, see a familiar face, make those connections. And especially in the climbing community, outdoor community, people looking for that nomadic lifestyle, one coffee enthusiast and traveler himself decided to give that to them, to provide a familiar face for those who live that van life existence.
When I was biking across the country by myself. I ended up on the Oregon coast, and it was really cold that day, and so I had to warm up somehow. And so I stopped at this little roadside stop, and the only thing hot to drink there was coffee. And so I had my first cup there, and I kind of got back onto my bike, and I was like, I get it now. I totally know why this is such an awesome thing. and why people drink this every day. And from then I, started to drink coffee every day, I guess. I was a climbing instructor for many years in college and then after college. So I've been a climber for a long time, and then kind of coffee came into the picture on that bike tour. And for the next few years after that, I still was just kind of a casual dude working in the outdoor industry and as a climbing instructor. And it got to the point where I really wanted to branch out of being a climbing instructor and doing something else, but I still loved the climbing community. And so I was like, you know what would be the coolest thing that I could do with my life right now? And I was like, man, I've always wanted to live in an old VW, and I love coffee, and like, I should just start selling coffee out of a van and traveling and climbing around the world. And so that was the dream. And so like a couple months later, I got a job at a little coffee shop up in the mountains in Colorado here. And after about 8 months, I quit after I thought I'd learned everything that I could, and I started Carabiner. I bought this old van on Craigslist and had it shipped from South Dakota to Denver, and then picked it up in Denver, and I drove over the Rocky Mountains that first day with it. Now it's like, this is it. This is exactly what I am supposed to be doing. I'd never owned or run a business before, and so I was learning all these things about like health code and business licenses and everything. And I went through all that and made sure I was like good to go in Breckenridge. And so I got the health code check, and then I go to the business license office, and they say, we're not going to give you a business license to sell coffee here. And I was like, why? Like, you just like don't fit the mold of this town. And we don't know how to classify you selling coffee out of an old van. Like, it's not a food truck technically, it's not a whatever. So we can't give you a license. And I was like, what? This is ridiculous. And so what I ended up doing, I was able to get a license for unincorporated land around, like on the outskirts of towns. So I started to drive to like roadside pullouts just like this, and just pull over, open the door, and start selling coffee to people that were driving by, like a literal like drive-by coffee shop. And so that definitely showed me that you really need to just make the situation work and make it your own. And that was like what I had to do to make it work. I needed to go park in the winter or whatnot, like on the side of the road, like shivering, until people started to like stop by and say what's up.
Thank you guys for being here.
You know what? Just trying to spread the love. Do what I can.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
How did you hear of Carabiner Coffee?
And I've been actually looking for his van in Boulder for the past like 6 months, and finally found him today.
I heard about Carabiner Coffee from my hairstylist, and I think her boyfriend helps Carabiner Coffee at various events. So that's how I heard about it. And yeah, I also own a VW bus, so it's kind of hard to miss other VWs around. Not too many Type 2s out there.
And such a cool experience to just walk up and it's ready to go out of the side of the van.
By no means as easy as I make it look, or like just that it looks in general, like on social media or whatnot. Like running a business in different places around the country every day is pretty crazy to make all that work. And sometimes, yeah, it's like, man, this is really hard. But it's really the people that, when I'm driving around in this van, you know, that have heard of Carabiner somehow, or that I randomly talk to, introduced to, and they're like, oh, I know who you are, and I'm like, what you're doing is really inspiring me. It's kind of unique that I'm now, like, I was a climbing instructor when I started this business, and now I have sold coffee to like pretty much all of my climbing icons. A lot of times it's been kind of, I've like crashed on a lot of couches in the last few years traveling, and I've always loved like people opening up like their house to me just if I'm in town for a few weeks. then I get to wake up and like make them a cup of coffee is like what I do, and then just kind of like get to know people kind of intimately every morning. Like then they'll go do their thing, I'll do my thing. Just such an awesome way to connect with people of any culture that are from anywhere, that do anything. It's kind of something that I would say most people in the world are doing every morning, is drinking a cup of coffee. So it's just a really great way to get to know your environment and the people around you, and just, you know, hang out, have a good time. Dad he was definitely a huge inspiration. Just in like, he was a traveler, kind of like we have led similar lives, I guess, now that I'm doing this, because he was a hitchhiker for like 10 years, like ultra nomad. Yeah, and like that's kind of how he, you know, learned about life and learned about the world, and I feel like I'm kind of taking that same approach. And he would always tell me stories of that when I was growing up, of just like, I remember when I was like on that road and like the car almost flipped over, and like, you know, all those crazy stories, and I was like, man, I want to live a life like that 100%, and so kind of made it a point to do that now. Everything I do is just one little cup of coffee, really, but if you do that enough in the right way, it can have a huge impact.
Even in makeshift communities and short-term lifestyles, we see that coffee and tea, sharing those moments together, connecting, are vital components to everyday life. When I think of my time climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, I think of those morning coffees shared with the porters and my team, and those evening teas that were just an integral part of everyday life on the mountain.
I've been working as a guide for now 15 years. I like Lemosho and Machame route because normally you face different challenges every day. If you take a longer day, like 7 days, it's better because you give the body time to acclimatize. But sometimes if you take shorter days, it's harder because you don't have enough time to give the body time to acclimatize. So sometimes it's harder for the clients also. Hiking to the summit. Normally you are tired, you feel dizzy, you feel sleepy, you feel cold. So those combination makes the harder. But normally after you get to the summit, you feel like you receive a new energy and then you become happy again.
Nikiamka asubuhi, mimi ni pota, alafu ni waiter. Ninaamsha wageni asubuhi, napo maji ya kunawa. Baada ya hapo wanakunywa, nawapa breakfast. Baada ya breakfast ninaandaa mzigo wangu, ninafunga, naondoka kempu moja kwenda nyingine. Mahusiano ni mazuri, tunashirikiana pamoja kufanya kazi, ni marafiki wa karibu. Ndio maana tunakuwa katika safari pamoja. Kinachonivutia kufanya kazi mlimani, kwanza kabisa kwamba ni kupata hela. Na baada ya kupata hela inanisaidia kwa ajili ya kuendesha maisha yangu na familia.
Mahusiano ni mazuri kwa sababu wote ni timu moja na tunapendana. Hata wenzetu tunapokutana njiani, labda mwenzako amepata na tatizo, tunasaidiana, tunapambana. Wakati wa kazi yangu inapokuwa ngumu ni wakati wa mvua nyingi, mvua zinavyonyesha, kwa sababu unafika kempu, ukifika kempu hali umelowana, hema zimeloa, kwa hiyo mazingira yanakuwa magumu sana. Wakati ninakuwa na furaha, wakati afya yangu iko ni nzuri na hali ya kimaisha, pesa na maisha yakiwa mazuri, nikiwa na hali ya yani na mahitaji yangu yote, naona hali yangu itakuwa nzuri, inakuwa nafuu.
Wakati wote mimi nakuwa na furaha zaidi pale ambako kwamba ninatimiza kile ambacho nakifanya. Mfano kama siku ya kumaliza kazi, siku nakuwa na furaha kupita siku ambayo nimeanza kazi.
Sehemu ngumu ipo wakati unakuta saa ingine kama vitu vingine havina maji, kwa hiyo tunapata maji kwa shida. Mahusiano ni mazuri kwa sababu tunashirikiana kwa pamoja. Ukipatwa na tatizo tunasaidiana. Napata furaha wakati unakuta tunapofanya kazi kama hizi. Nakuta kampuni zingine kama hii ya kwetu ambayo tuko nayo, tunafuraha kwa sababu nakuta kampuni yetu inamwambia mgeni $10 kwa siku mpaka 15. Kwa hiyo tunapata furaha, tukipata na riziki pia tunafurahi.
The first time I was 16. It was a school trip. I remember it was really hard for me. Yeah, we were doing Marango route. It was really hard for me. I remember. So now I can imagine some of the clients, how they feel during their first time. I do this about 28 to 32 times a year. So normally 2 or 3 times a month. So it's many times to the summit. I don't even remember.
I want to introduce you to the man behind the tent who's been doing all of my cooking. He's been making an amazing food, chakula tam. Right here, Daniel. Danny, we call him. Tam sana, Danny.
Ninapendelea kahawa. Kinywa kahawa najisikia vizuri, tofauti na kunywa chai ya kahawa ya majani.
I like to have a coffee with the client up here the mountain because cold, and having coffee, that's my favorite. Coffee helps a lot. First they keeps warm from the coffee, and then the warm sometimes like they boost. It's boosting the body, like to get acclimatized also to the heat. Yeah, will help.
The role of connecting with a coffee or a tea is pretty apparent at this point, but it begs the question, has coffee always been a social drink? And to better understand this, I had to go to the birthplace, the origin of coffee.
ለርሶ ቡና ምንድን ነው?
እኔ አሁን ቡና በጣም ነው የምወደው። ቡናውንም ጫካው እነዚህ እንጨቶቹን በጣም ነው የምወደው። ለቡናም ውበት የሚሰጠው ጣዕም የሚሰጡት እነዚህ ያሉት ዛፎች ናቸው። በጣም ጠቃሚ የሆኑት ዛፎቹ አሉ። ቡናም ደግሞ ህይወታችን ነው። የሀገራችን ስም ቡና አገራችን ተብላ ከፋ የምትጠራ በቡና ስለሆነች እንዳያችሁት እንግዲህ ጫካ ሁሉ እንግዲህ ቡና ነው። ተፈጥሮ ቡናዎቹም ትክል ቡናዎቹም እውነት የቡና አገር ናት ከፋ። እና ለዚህ በጣም ወዳታለሁ። አገሬንም ወዳለሁ፣ ቡናቷንም ወዳለሁ። ከባዱ እንግዲህ አሁን ለቀማ ወቅት ይከብዳል። የሰው ኃይል ያንሳል። ምንጣሩ እንዳያችሁት እንግዲህ ውስጡን እንግዲህ ለለቀማ ተብሎ ውስጡ መመንጠር አለበት። በአመት 3 ጊዜ በግድ መመንጠር አለበት። ይሄ አሁን ብዙ ወጪ ነው እንግዲህ የሚወጣ። ብዙ ወጪ ከወጣ በኋላ ነው ይሄ ገና ተለቅሞ ውጤታማ የምንሆነው። እኔ አሁን በእውነት ብዙ ነው የምመክራቸው ለእነዚህ ለህፃናትም ሆነ ለአዋቆቹ ቡና እንዲተክሉ በእንክብካቤ እንዲይዙ ደግሞ ቡና እንዳይሸመጠጥ አንዳንድ የሀገራችን ውጤት ስለሆነ አንዳንድ ፍሬ እንዲለቅሙ እነግራቸዋለሁ። ከዚህ በፊትም በኃላፊነት ስለሚሰራ ስብሰባ ላይም በግልጽ ነው የምናገረው። በግልም እናገራለሁ። ስብሰባ ላይም ተነስቼ ሀሳብን እሰጣለሁ። ቡና በጥራት እንዲያዝ እንዳይሸመጠጥ ደግሞ በውስጡ ከብት ምናምን ገብቶ ቡናው እንዳይበላሽ ብዬ መክራቸዋለሁ። በእውነት እኔ ማስተላለፍ የምወደው እንግዲህ አሁን ቡናችን ለቅመን ያው ለውጭ ነው በዩኔን አማካይነት የምንሰደው። ቀይ ቡና ለዩኔኑ ነው የምናስረክበው። እንግዲህ አሁን ቡናቷም ደግሞ የሀገራችን ውጤት ስለሆነች የሀገሪቷ ስም ስለሆነ ቡና ማገኛ አገር ስለሆነች ቡናችን በጥሩ ሁኔታ ደግሞ ውጭ ያሉትም ቡናችን ጥራት ያለ ቡና ስለሆነ ቡናችን እንዲገዙ ዋጋችን ደግሞ የወደቀ ዋጋችን ከፍ ብሎ ቡና እንዲሸጥና ደህና ዋጋ እንድናገኝ ይሄ ተፈጥሮ ደናችን ደግሞ የመንግስትም የማንም መንግስት ያልሆነ መንግስትም እርዳታ ምናምን አድርጎ ይሄ ያሉ ደኖቹ በእንክብካቤ እንዲያዙና እንዲጠበቁ ከኛ ቀርቶ ለልጆቻችን ጥሩ ያዝነው ቡናችን ጥሩ ያዝነው ጫካችን አባታችን ያሰረከቡት እነዚህ ልጆቻችን ደግሞ ከኛ ተረክቦ ጥሩ አድርጎ ጠብቆ ለአገሪቷ መጨረሻ ግቧ ላይ እንዲመታ ይሄንን ማስተላለፍ ወዳለሁ። ለዚህ ያሉት ሰዎችም ሆነ ለሌላ ለሚሰማ ይሄ በጥሩ ሁኔታ እንዲጠበቅ ደግሞ አገራችን ውስጥ በከፋ ውስጥ ያለው ቡና ብቻ አይደለም፣ በጫካ የተያዘች ናት። ደህና በጫካ ውስጥ የሚሄዱት ደህና ወንዞች አሉ፣ ፏፏቴዎች አሉ፣ ሌላ ቅርሶቹ እኛ ከፋ ውስጥ ስላሉ ብዙ የታዩት ነገሮች ስላሉ ይሄንን ማንም መጥቶ ውጭ ያሉትም ሆነ ኢትዮጵያዊ ይሄንን አይቶ እንዲደሰት ይሄንን ጥሬን አስተላልፋለሁ።
You told me before that they harvest from the top. What happens when the beans drop?
Yeah, mostly, actually it's difficult to harvest coffee from the wild because it's very long and it has very tall. So most of the time they are using, first of all they clear the ground.
Okay.
And they put like something on the ground and they are waiting until it's dropped down. And sometimes the kids climb up and collect. Actually, it is risky for them, difficult to harvest from the wild.
Kamara beta?
Yeah.
Mami no?
With the necklace.
She's big.
Cafe, benega fun kachget.
Is buno mazion. Maza shukion. Arso tamasteo. Ando tamidaro gedon kasara buno maza shukion. Shuki anse midaro gedake sa westino kasara anse masta midaro gedaga anse kindian ma shuki ane ake gesto ane muna question la ta dusta mune kondo kodia. استنى
Baka madan no tu leno ba bete sebo mano go pegata buno wada ke zino ucho bisha gusino ucho bete sebo hune sona mada gutono ucho ke mano ucho
هذا كيكا موش كيكا أنا عم بيسين وشي
ike ucho baka hiyo aude ucho sino ucho lama mada gupe adrasato gupe ebinella
I came to witness the ethnology of coffee, where it all began. But I ended up gaining a new community. No longer observing from the outside, but I was thrown into the middle of it all. I am sure that the coffee culture has sustained from the quality of the coffee in Ethiopia. But I am now sure, more than ever, that it is the people of Ethiopia who make their coffee not just a drink, but a lifestyle.
እንትን እናደርጋለን
ያው ለማየት
የምታደርጊውን
ውፍረቱን ቅጥነቱን ለማየት ነው እንደዚህ
አዎ እንትን
ሲፈላ ቡናው መወፈር መቅጠኑን ያው በማየት ከለየው በኋላ ከዛ በኋላ ሲበስል አቅርቤ ቀዳለሁ ከዛ ቃቦል ቶና በረካ ያው አፈላለሁ ጨርሳለሁ ማለት ነው ከዛ
She boils the coffee 3 times. The first one is known as abol. And abol is the best coffee, of course. And then she boils it again, and then serve it. And the second one is called tona, and the one that shows the end of the coffee ceremony is the baraka. After you after you drink the baraka, the coffee ceremony ends, and then everyone bless each other as you have seen earlier, and then separate to their own house. That's how the process goes.
The correlation of 3 rounds being a way to share coffee is so interesting because historically in Moroccan culture, tea or ate is enjoyed in 3 rounds. The first is as bitter as life, the second is as strong as love, and the third is as soothing as death. Moroccan culture, an invitation to drink tea is a truly meaningful act of hospitality and friendship. Drinking tea is a savored, sedentary experience.
Tea means a form of hospitality, but also tea is usually enjoyed together with family or friends. At your home, when you need to host somebody or a friend, you have to welcome it with a cup of tea.
الصحة والراحة أفريقيا بارك ومروي هذا بموش زوار ننتقفا أرض نترهين نيامن حمانين دست قتمان دست خوتي فراون دست قفا ياتن الصاعين فينا دتكست خوتي يعني محل كاز ترارت تكستيت تتسنع ناس القلب.
The Berber people today are descendants of the indigenous pre-Arab inhabitants of northern Africa. Throughout history, Berbers have been nomadic people. However, today most Berber families are farmers, traders, shop owners, or they work in tourism.
Before we live in the desert in the middle of Sahara, before border of Algeria, and you move to here, to the village, and now we live here.
And you primarily work with tourists
Yes.
that come here?
Yeah, we work in the Campania.
And while Morocco's official languages are Arabic and Berber Amazigh, many of the Berber families I talked to voiced their concerns about the historical language fading in the new generation, since many teens and young adults are learning English, Spanish, and French instead of their Berber Amazigh language. I was fortunate enough to be welcomed into many Berber homes in the Sahara during my stay. And while I only picked up a few words and phrases to say in Amazigh, I can attest for the kindness and hospitality shown by the people of Morocco.
مرحبا welcome.
Berber woman. I was told that the desert is one of nature's greatest healers. I was advised during my stay to be open to the Sahara because it has the ability to make one vibrate with happiness, to be humbled, and to find answers if we let it resonate within us. I understood these words the minute I walked barefoot in the dunes, and I watched the sunset on my first night in the Sahara. And I was shown a glimpse of my own roots the night we built a fire under the new moon in the cold sand, and I felt that I was meant to be right there, curled up against my camel Jimmy, listening to the traditional songs being sung, and dancing to the drums as the night went on. While coffee had always been the root of connecting for me, I knew that tea culture and tea traditions really provided a way for people around the world to concentrate, create, and connect. To stop on our journey to Ranaket, and we all got to sit here with Amma and Bula and Didi and Sabula. You know, we just stopped and she just offered us tea, so that was such a neat way for us to all interact together and to sit down. And I mean, who else does that on the side of the road? You just come up and you're like, would you like some tea? Like some chai? So, dhanyavad Amma. While staying as a guest for a couple of nights at the Satkul Himalayan Ashram in the shadows of the Himalayas, we were generously invited over for tea by Mandana. Mandana was born in Iran and has found an incredible amount of peace here in India while raising her family. The proximity to the ashram also plays a role in her daily meditation.
I grew up in the most unsafe place in the world. So for me, India has been the most safe place that I could ever imagine. I lived in Canada also for years, and then when we moved here, I remember the first time I heard a big sound outside my window. I don't know if it was a tire that got punctured or what it was. Normally I would jump, because we've had wars in my country, we've had missiles, we've had bombs, I've experienced all of them. But this was the first time that I did not jump because I knew I'm in a safe place, and whatever that sound was is not going to affect me. I believe that if you think positive and you have all the positive intentions, everything positive happens. And if something sometimes goes wrong, that's also because something positive is to come out of that experience. Traditional Iranian way, we make it really dark, and then we loosen it up with, I haven't used this for so long, hot water. So it's all about the color. There's a lot of negative energy out there that's going on. A lot of wars, a lot of things to be worried about. But what I try to do is to change myself and be a positive person, be a open-hearted person. Just try to be a human, you know, and hopefully reach the destination, which is becoming a divine human, like my guru has done, his guru has done, you know. It's just, any of us can do it. It's just you have to have a goal and work towards it. And I think the more people think, like-minded people think like that, they do like that, they work on it to become better human beings, work on this positive energy. We have prayers, we have different features to our meditation. We work for, eventually we work for world peace. We can. It's just more people wanting to meditate, more people wanting to become peaceful, then the outcome will be different. There's such a sense of lightness. Even if you, in a half an hour meditation, you manage to go in deep in that place where it's very quiet. There's awareness, but you're not really aware of your surrounding. So maybe best is to say there's consciousness. You touch that. So even if it's for 2 minutes, when you come out of the meditation, you feel so revived, so rejuvenated. You know, for me, like Sunday when I met you guys, I came home with so much energy because of that 1 hour meditation that I did in the morning. Whereas if I miss it, it's totally different. It's like a night where you sleep so late and the next day you're kind of, you know, low on energy. So if you have a good meditation in the morning, after that you feel full of energy. So I think what helps is to be an empty cup and see what it's going to fill you up with. No expectations, so there will be no disappointments. And that's the definition of peace. Accept everything that comes your way as a divine blessing.
Chai.
Chai has a dominant role in India's history and economy, but it is also a large aspect of the culture as a social event, a social aspect that crosses socioeconomic backgrounds, and it is used as an extension of hospitality and friendship.
कोई ठहरा नहीं घर में, घरवाले वहाँ गए हैं कांडा इंजेक्शन लगाने के लिए, वो भी बीमार है। मेरा ये हाल काम नहीं कर रहा है, ये भी नहीं कर रहा है। ये देखिए ऐसी आदत है कि क्या कहूँ। गरीबी ऐसी ठगी है, तो रोटी खाने के लिए नहीं मिला, क्या कहें।
I came upon his house and I'm a stranger and he just wants to be able to offer something, to connect and to make me feel comfortable, and that's offering a chai. And I think that is just so special for him to be able to offer me something to drink and you know, and to want to do that, but he's not able to, and for that, dhanyavad Babuji, dhanyavad. I witnessed the significance of tea daily throughout my stay. I began to crave those moments when none of us spoke the same language, but we understood each other over a cup of chai. At this point, tea as a sacred tradition really called to me. I had to learn more. I wanted to better understand how people connect to themselves, connect to nature, connect to others through tea. And to better understand this, I also wanted to see what tea means to someone whose whole life revolves around the leaf.
The tea ceremony was perfected about 450 years ago, and it's yes amazing that for more than 4 centuries we still do the same thing, and it was like a Zen monks, like a kind of like training, and then this was created so that everyone could enjoy this tea making. All the movement is very slow, and we're just watching it. Not only the person who does it, even when you are just watching, it really slows down the pace, and in the end you may like maybe breathe together, in the same way, and so about 10 minutes of making 1 cup of tea, you become just quiet, and you don't think anything but just watch someone who makes tea. In fact, that's actually quite rare things to do, especially these days. You have the smartphone, you have the internet everywhere. You always have to do something all the time. But the tea ceremony allows you not to do anything, but just focus on one thing, so that you can feel just calm. As a Japanese girl, it's a part of the path you have to go. So not anymore, but my mom's quite old-fashioned. And yeah, it's I was 13 years old, and I was kind of like reluctant. I didn't want to do this, but because my mother said, "All right, do it." But that was my very first time to see the tea ceremony. I just loved it. Every single object we have like story or the history behind it. It's just the one calligraphy or the flower arrangement, the tea kettle, tea bowls itself, the bamboo crafts, the lacquerware, kimonos, right? So every single that you can find for the tea ceremony is very fine art. So that's another thing that we enjoy. So when you are organizing a tea ceremony, or you invited to a tea ceremony, what we look forward is that you can always have the good time. That's why we keep training for years and years and years, that basically you never stop, you just keep practicing to create the best atmosphere, to make the best cup of tea for today. The most important thing is that just you really enjoy this moment. Like I just put a lot of love into my tea.
いろんな農作物が日本にはあるんですけど、いろんなね、仕事もある中で、やっぱり、なんだろうな、やっぱ基本一人で、どっちかというと一人で全てをしたいタイプやし、で、なんていうんですか、自分の責任の中において、全てが完結できるような、そういう世界を、夢見ていたんですけど、その中でお茶っていうのが、たまたまですよ。たまたま、アルバイトでわずかに来ただけやねんけど、最初わずかっていう場所も知らんかったし、わずかがお茶の町だってことも知らなかった。その中で、たまたまここに来て、お茶と出会った。それがやっぱり僕の人間性にすごく合ってたわけですよね。ジャパンの中でも、日本の中でも、場所場所によって、静岡とか、鹿児島、プレフェクチャーとか、いろんな、産地があって、その中でオブブ茶園は、京都エリアにあるんですけど、確かに、静岡とか、鹿児島とか、京都とか、いろいろ産地によって特徴が、お茶にも、土がも違うんですね。気候とか、グラウンドソイルとか、すべてが違うので、味も、香りも、すべて違うんですよね。その中で、オブブ茶園は、京都で作ってるんですけど、京都の中でもいろいろあるし、その中でですね、やっぱり京都としては、京都としてはというか、京都らしい、逆に言ったら、京都っぽい、京都はこんなんちゃうかな、みたいな、宇治茶はこんなんちゃうかな、みたいな、そういう自分のイメージみたいな、それに近づけていきたいかなっていうところは、結局のところ、つまりは、お茶とは何なのか。お茶とは、パッションじゃないかなって。情熱ですね。僕のこの情熱が、うまいことシンクロするような、合わさっていくような、それがお茶なんじゃないかなって思うんですよね。
さっきちょっとお話ししたと思うんですけど、一番最初にお茶と関わったのが、もう10代、19歳ぐらいの時に、お茶の農家さんのお手伝いをさせてもらって、で、その時に、その年に採れた一番最初の煎茶を飲ませてもらいました。その農家さんが、入れてくれて、で、そのお茶がすごく、今まで飲んだことがないような、香りと旨味のあるお茶で、これがお茶なのかっていうふうにびっくりして、で、そういう顔をなんていうんですかね、一杯のお茶ですかね。っていうのがすごくお茶っていうのが、ものすごく、いい触媒といいますかね、一つの、集まれるといいますかね、どんな人たちでも楽しく集まれるっていうのが、すごくいいのかなと思うので、そういう、なんて言うんでしょうか、楽しめる、時間であったり空間っていうのを、広めていけたら。で、日本のお茶っていうのはそういうので、お役に立てるところが、すごくあるのかなっていうふうに思うので、ぜひ世界に広めていけたら嬉しいなと思います。そっち撮ってるやん、こっち撮ろう。
We have tea tours and tea events where people can come and experience how the tea is made in Japan and what is the culture behind it. And recently I'm also looking after the education of Japanese tea. So we started a Japanese tea master course this year that aims to kind of inspire the people around the world who are either working with tea already or are thinking about working with tea and they want to know more about Japanese tea. So we make the tea, but in addition to tea, we see much more value in that, and I also work on that side to help to promote the tea culture, Japanese tea culture all around the world. For me, I think maybe the social aspect is the most interesting and the most important, how tea connects people. So sometimes you don't even need to speak the same language. As long as you share a cup of tea, you can have a very nice and interesting time with people from anywhere. And I think my main interest is in tea culture and tea education, so that more people could see that side of tea and could appreciate tea even more if they knew the history or the culture behind it. So this year we started this baby project, Japanese tea master course, and we hope to grow it bigger and one day to have a full school where people could come any time of the year and spend a few weeks or perhaps even a few months learning about tea and then bringing that experience and that knowledge back to their own place and sharing it with their own circle of people around.
What is Japanese tea? One big innovation of Japanese tea is steaming tea. So the steaming process is really special for the other tea. So steaming tea is Japanese tea. Steaming can stop oxidization and tea nutrition. It's an antioxidant component. It's good for our health. So one of the reasons why Japanese people has such a long life, basically they drink a lot of tea. So I don't know how much affect each other, but I believe it has some relationship. 2012, after 10 months from the big tsunami earthquake in Tohoku area, we visited tsunami disaster area over 40 places during 2,000 kilometers driving. They survived because they were there. So many people died, but some of them survived and we met them. And we served lots of tea for them, many places. And as they said, I really relief to drink tea, and I forgot the feeling since these days, because they survive to drink water. For survival, water and tea is almost same, just liquid. But the big difference is just water is keep their life, but the tea keep their heart. So tea can connect each other, and tea can make their life more smooth and more heartful.
Tea is actually a really recent development for me, even though it's been in my life since I was a kid. The very first cup of tea I had was from my mum. She taught me how to make rice, and she taught me how to make tea. And she said those are the two foundations to become a good person. Because if you can feed somebody and you can make somebody a drink, then you're going to be okay. So for me, sitting down and having a cup of tea together is the same as having a meal together. I think those two go hand in hand. Growing up in a Cambodian household, but then also having Chinese and Indian influences, and then growing up in Australia as well, where you're trying to fit in, tea solidified my Asian roots, because I was trying for so long to be white in ways, or like I was grabbing onto other cultures to try and be at peace with who I was. And it was only until last year I was like, you can own being Asian. This is fine. Like, and you can own being Cambodian, Indian, Chinese, Asian. That's fine too. Because I was always really interested in understanding culture, but I didn't know who I was culturally. And so the tea, just like learning about tea and being like, wow, there's so much magnificence in Asian tea culture. And so I used to always like bring either a bottle of wine up to my bedroom or a pot of tea. And so the wine slowly started to become the tea. And then I was like, I really wanted to understand more about Cambodian culture as well. So I asked my mum after a period of time, because we didn't talk for about a year and a half. And I asked her, what was that tea that you gave me when we were really young and like that we grew up with? She's like, oh yeah, I'll get some for you. And so that started my relationship back with my mum. Yeah, I don't know, like it helped me build a better relationship with my parents. And for that I'm so grateful. Like I am so grateful for what tea has given me in my life.
Both tea and coffee are vessels that help us to share moments with others. While I was focused on the way these drinks link us together, a reoccurring sentiment kept being highlighted while I was filming. The simplicity, yet overwhelming presence of water. It left me wondering what my hypothesized connected cup moments would be like in communities where water is really scarce.
Sungkan kya sida gin korta da kinte kichomo ba mata ay kuso ma ke meyo ba community ne kamanya ne akin ne kamanya ga sama ndong no ten ne jal ba yeni mamanya na ngamu mata engang na jin on tomo na kapen ne kamanya yo am yo nal ba yan kya da stress yo ba wona e to perna ba e ba me de spat kai dung to yake na wo na lo na wa tara na o kun kishay ko mata engarnar kin na jog na yo kala inen me ko nu re ne jata na ko na panan papal ne we ni adwa ngana she wala la
sida do munti ngama ta na duan ta ngorong na duan ta dwana tata aya go ringa na buan mate la shumba na go gul ta da garama ta ngara amma ni ga dinga ga dai go bangin do na te kai mani ne mutuna mamutana na ga din shida na ga ngorong na ga tani mata do ni jana ngara
Yol nena dogi yol barnu tu silingi na bu te silingi no imea nula nyong ko jet nyong ka bisari amu yol ono ka bisari yol je ono da chas na yol na ga barni ya dogi yol do ko je na ina tare borro ni na tunji marko tu mate na ni tare nulo ni tu me ngalu na ko ni nyong ina par ko je janga de nga ka bisada tomon ko to andare tomon wada isi je poki ke sini namu ama tanga ngai yong parna sangkai yol dam parna ki jona do gacha nikri na ko na ji mete bide ni na kuni na atai data ka data dare tomon waje sini tomon ini da bana merenga perkunda berot na merengini nabu na la nyanga kinya ka bisi na yo kata ni je ka nyeta ko do la bangol ni ai short ta ni cham
Simak ke barat doni te
Kari, 20 liters.
20 liters. Yes.
How many times a day?
2, morning and evening. Unajua wakati mvua inanyesha, alafu mbuzi watapata kitu ya kula, alafu tena mvua tena bado ikinyesha, mimea itamea mzuri. Naosanga vyombo, nafagia nyumba, alafu natengeneza nyumba, napika, alafu tena nauza kwa Unity, nasaidia tu watu kuwachotea maji kuleta hapa, tunauza bafu na tunauza choo.
Mimi nasema maji ni important kwa sababu kama kama hakuna maji na mtu utaoga, utanuka. Na tena kama hakuna maji ya kupika, kama hujakula utaweza kufa. Na kama hujakunywa maji utaweza kufa. Na kama tena mbuzi haijakunywa maji wataweza kufa. Mimi napenda unity kwa sababu unity wanasaidia sana, kwa sababu hakuna mwenye mwingine anayesaidia mama. Kwa sababu mama akikosa pesa ya kununulia watoto chakula, anaenda anapata wa mama. Kama wako na chakula wanamchangia, wanampatia. Na hata huyo anachukuru, na kama hakuna mwenye ako na pesa, wanaweza mtolea pesa ya group aenda anunue chakula.
Yo natin ibento no bonto monok, de mata na pe. Yo tin ibento no bonto monok, kinu natin ibento no bonto monok. Amata na pa yan ulta kai tento monok no dong takando. Yo akan tomana ka pena bina ka rito. Ni ada lekai tongone jo. Ngainia, yo na pa yan bukan ta tomana kai turro. Kindi mai nyu ya jago chomo ti do ngai chukuli chomo ni. Na yo ba yo tomana ka pe. Ni ki bina rito tono. Ami kaya tongone na dage ko yo. Uga na ki sumba yo. Ni kaya nasi fura tono bona bagin jene. Mata dal. Miki yo chagin jana yo no tone. Kaya to fura saidi chagin kaya.
Anak itu kabisa. Kami orang nanti lihat sana. Kayak yang kayak belum binta lihat rumah kuci. Ni betul betul. Jual tungan bar lalu belakang. Nalagi ni jadi nasi lagi. Jual jual tungan itu masih dah. Jalan nabang jalan suku. Ni kan jalan nagari. Nalagi nagi ni tu. Lalu amun. Jangan ada kain jauh mati pakai nama je. Itu guna gal tungan. Kalau mina dalam tu kayak itu ni itu nagamu. Kayak naga jual lalu ngana jual. Ni guna baca. Itu saya dia di nak cara. Kalau nak dampar ni mana tu guna, ni lagi nak tu. Saya nak kita sile. Pergi jana bawa motor je, nungaji pergi tu guna kau tokai parra kau tokai tu. Ada ni kerja lepas tu ni. Ni kini nak ni tu kau tokai shop. Nak bagi kerang puru. Ni kini nungu nak. Jual dah ni ada. Jual nak aku tu gua sup. Ni jual gua aku gua sup. Mana mari kita bagi jadi ni jual kini ni. Nak jual apa itu berapa kau jual ni sampai. Nak jual kasih.
Anak ini negara sudah nak tabiat ngotan. Amgor ta big bini yo na ken baro rasa me baro ngara na gor big bini yo na ke chama rasa me ba chama ba ngara ma ta na yo na pake en yo kran sa ba ko no ko na ba ko no no buida na yo ko yo ro na ba yin dai ko ko to na yi na to na je sai de na kam ka ni na ta ko no ta man je ayo na ro na na sa
Ni kibena ni kijam yo bekin bertai na group ki jo butu matera tate. Aku metokin tegemea yo. Yo ake onkai. Yo ta sambur mesam bayan ngara pogi. Ami yo da na no ka tan ngara met. Na da na pa ko na dal bayan ke samla yo ka are ne mesam ko na tu yo. Na ba yo pa cha dun group ni ki somela yo ko on to yi. Ami yo da ke kun ngara ang na diba ta secondary. Na yo ba ta na itu ki cha di unity mbe ko samla na ngara pogi. Aduan na de don ni tejo ye ka amma ko na to silingini ka ke chore kiral tungan na yo be me chore kiral tungan ni ye ke jisiap ne ji yo ko na ko bon batanda yo ko na ke de ber ko bum bato school yo ko na no bum batalda oda de ga de ye ni na da ni
Kwa sababu chai ndio inakuchemsha akili. Kama unakunywa chai kichwa itakuuma. Kunywa chai asubuhi utasikiza hata mwalimu. Utacheza. Unalala tu hata marafiki wakikuita mcheze. Utaka kucheza kwa sababu hujakunywa chai.
Kama basi umetoka pale kama umetoka kwenda kuni, ukiwa umechoka unakuja unapikiwa chai unatoa basi nini? Chunga.
Kama tisha idasiran na dana ka tinggal nama tusa ini nama tiba yo dana mata chai manyanda bas ne jadi
le kuitan minta mata ye kau
juga
ini baru
mama sana na kau kita mata na angkat ngole na ya kita ni jeju ngole mama ta kau
ambar kuitan mata ye chai
Kamu di sana nak cai lagi, tangga yang mesti nak jual mula mata, naik lagi kejerat, naik gigi bunyi.
She say like her first time to take the coffee was yesterday. Like,
yo la va a que yara yo la mano que yara ya y la mano do con kai digo bon da que yara ne que mato no yo ba que na ma da que yara ya y la mano ne yo te yara sha ma da ma digo yara ne que ma.
The women reminded me, and they live by the principle, that we are stronger together. Daily rituals impact our lives in a variety of ways. Coffee will always be the drink that allows for me to connect with others and to connect with myself in the mornings. But without water, there is no tea. There is no coffee. Water truly is the first connected cup. It is the basic source of all of these connected moments. As humans, we have physical basic needs like food, shelter, and water. But we also have the mental and emotional need for companionship. And as I look back, I can't help but think, these people, these stories, these connections, it brought so much color and vibrancy back into my life.